A struggling waitress sees her mother's photo in a billionaire's wallet. His answer shocks her. Emma never liked Tuesday mornings. There was something lifeless about them. The way the sun crawled in like it was too tired to shine. How customers barely lifted their eyes from their coffee mugs. How everything felt like a repeat of yesterday, but without the energy. She was on her third table of the day, refilling someone's decaf, when the bell above the door jingled, and in walked a man who didn't belong. He was dressed in an expensive dark coat, the kind that never touched rain. His shoes were polished like mirrors, his jaw sharp, expression unreadable. He took a seat by the window without waiting to be seated. His gaze briefly touched hers, and she felt it. Not interest, not warmth, just calculation, as if she were a detail in a larger plan. "Coffee, black," he said, voice low, not unkind, but not inviting conversation. Emma nodded and walked away, her thoughts swirling. Something about him was familiar. Not his face. She would remember a man like that. It was something else, a feeling in her gut she couldn't name. When she returned with the coffee, he was on the phone. His voice was quiet, but she caught a few clipped words. Zurich, shipment, non-compliance. She tried not to listen, but curiosity had already taken root. As she set the cup down, his wallet fell from his lap onto the seat. He didn't notice. "Excuse me," she said, but he waved her off without looking. She hesitated. The wallet was open slightly. A photograph peeked out. Just a corner. Emma told herself to ignore it, to walk away. She didn't. Her fingers brushed the edge. She only meant to push it back inside. But then she saw the photo, full view, and her world stopped. It was a picture of her mother, not just any photo, one Emma had never seen before. Her mother, younger, standing beside this very man, his arm around her shoulders, smiling. Her mother's smile, soft, private. The way she smiled only for those she truly loved. Emma froze. Her breath caught like a hook in her chest. The man hung up, picked up the wallet, and tucked it away. She was still staring. He looked at her then. Really looked. Something flickered in his eyes, a split-second tension, but it was gone as fast as it came. "Is something wrong?" he asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. "That photo—" He stood. "Your manager," he said. "Is it someone I can speak to?" "What?" She blinked. He didn't repeat himself. He simply adjusted his coat, placed a bill on the table, more than triple the check, and walked out. Emma stood there long after the bell above the door stopped ringing. The rest of the day passed in a blur. She couldn't stop thinking about the photo, about his face next to her mother's. That look, not just familiarity, intimacy. She waited until her shift ended. Then she searched. His name, as it turned out, wasn't hard to find. Alexander Pierce, CEO of Pierce Global, one of the richest men in the country. Interviews, board meetings, photos with politicians, but not a single mention of her mother. No record, no link. Nothing but that photograph. Proof that the connection was real, and also that it had been buried. That night, Emma sat on the floor of her apartment, the lights off, scrolling through old pictures of her mother. She found one taken when she was very young, her mother holding her, smiling. She zoomed in. The necklace. The same one from the photo in his wallet. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't coincidence. She had to know. The next day, Emma showed up outside Pierce Global headquarters. He was not going to brush her off again. Emma hadn't slept. The image of that photograph burned behind her eyes. It was the kind of thing that didn't just raise questions, it demanded answers. She stood across the street from Pierce Global, the glass tower rising into the sky like something from another world. People in suits streamed in and out, moving with purpose. She felt out of place in her plain jacket, holding a small notebook and her phone like they might protect her. The lobby guards weren't going to let her through. That much was obvious. She needed another way in, not just into the building, but into the truth. And for that, she needed to go back before she could move forward. Emma took the afternoon off work, telling her manager she had a family matter to deal with. That wasn't even a lie. Her first stop was a small apartment in the south end of the city. The woman who lived there, Nina, had been her mother's closest friend. She was in her late 50s now, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes sharp. When Emma showed her the photograph, Nina went still. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "In a wallet," Emma said. "The man, his name is Alexander Pierce." Nina's fingers trembled slightly as she held the photo. "I haven't seen this in over 20 years. You knew him?" "I knew of him," Nina said slowly. "Your mother met him before you were born. She never said much, just that it was a mistake, that she got involved with someone powerful, dangerous, in a way that didn't look dangerous at first." Emma's heartbeat quickened. "Dangerous how?" Nina looked at her. "He had control. Over people, over rooms, over her. But it ended. She made sure of that." "Did he know about me?" "I don't know," Nina said. "She never told me. But when you were born, she changed. She became afraid of being found. We moved cities more than once. I always thought it was about him." Emma felt her stomach turn. "Why didn't she ever tell me?" she asked, quieter now. "Maybe to protect you," Nina said, "or maybe because she didn't know how." Emma left with more questions than answers, but now she had a path. Back home, she opened the old box of her mother's belongings, things she hadn't looked through in years. Journals, letters, receipts, photos. Most of it was ordinary, until she found a letter, folded twice, yellowed at the edges. No envelope, no name. The handwriting was her mother's. I watched the plane take off and told myself it was over, that I could leave it all behind. But sometimes I wonder if you ever looked back, if you knew, if you even cared. There was no date, but the ink had smudged slightly, as if her mother had cried while writing it. Emma stared at the letter for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and began searching. Not for Alexander Pierce. She already knew enough about the man the world saw. She needed to know the man her mother knew. She dug deep. Through news archives, old press releases, charity events from 2 decades ago, and finally, buried in an old tabloid scan, a photo of Alexander Pierce with a woman at a gala. Her mother. She looked young, happy, and completely unaware that this image would be one of the last public traces of her past. Emma saved the article. The event had taken place 23 years ago, 2 months before Emma was born. She stared at the screen, mind racing. There was no denying it now. He had known. The next few days were a blur of dead ends and cold trails. Emma tried contacting people from Pierce's early years, secretaries, assistants, even drivers. No one would talk. Those who answered didn't remember, or claimed not to. One woman hung up the second she heard Alexander's name. The silence around him wasn't natural. It was intentional. By the end of the week, Emma was done waiting. She bought a gray blazer from a second-hand shop. Simple, sharp, the kind someone from an event team or catering company might wear. Then she found an upcoming investor networking event Pierce Global was hosting. The kind of place where security might not question someone with a clipboard. and confidence. The day of the event, she walked through the service entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel with a forged badge and a bundle of printed guest lists. Her heart thudded in her chest like it wanted to break through, but no one stopped her. The ballroom was filled with people in tailored suits, glasses of wine in hand, quiet conversations rippling like water. In the center of it all, like a general at ease in a battlefield he owned, stood Alexander Pierce. He hadn't seen her yet. Emma took a breath, steadying herself. She wasn't here to make a scene. She was here to confront the truth, directly and privately. She waited until he moved toward the hallway leading to the conference suites. Then she followed. He turned a corner and stopped, as if he had known she was coming. "You've been busy," he said calmly. Emma froze. "I could have you removed," he continued. "Arrested. You know that." "I don't care," she said. "I want answers." He looked at her. Really looked. The same way he had in the diner. Not cold this time, but tired. Maybe even sad. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Then tell me the truth," she demanded. "Were you in love with her?" A pause. Then quietly, "Yes." Emma blinked. "Did you know about me?" Another pause. "I knew." Silence fell between them like a wall. Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. "Then why did you leave?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "Because your mother made me promise I would." The hallway was silent after his words. "Because your mother made me promise I would." Emma stood still. She wasn't sure what she expected. Denial, lies, anger. But not this. Not quiet acceptance. Not a man who looked like he had been waiting 2 decades to say those words. "You left," she said, voice low. "But you didn't forget." Alexander nodded, slowly. "No, I didn't." "Then why? Why would she want that?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he opened the door beside him. A conference room, quiet, elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He gestured for her to enter. Emma hesitated, then stepped inside. He closed the door behind them. "Sit, please," he said. Not an order. Almost a plea. She didn't sit. She needed to stay standing. She needed to keep her balance. Alexander walked to the window and looked out, hands behind his back. For a moment, he seemed far older than she remembered from the photographs and press releases. "She was the only person in my life who ever said no to me," he said quietly. "The only one who wasn't afraid." Emma didn't move. "I met her at a charity event. She was working for the foundation. I was younger then. Arrogant. I thought I could buy anyone's attention, anyone's loyalty. But she wasn't impressed." He turned slightly toward her, voice steady but heavy. "She challenged me, questioned everything I believed about myself, and I fell in love with her." Emma's throat tightened. "We were together for almost a year. Secretly. She didn't want attention. I didn't want my family involved. And when she became pregnant, everything changed." He looked at her directly now. "She wanted to raise you alone. She said I lived in a world where people like her didn't survive. She said she didn't want you anywhere near it." "She ran," Emma whispered. "She didn't run," Alexander corrected. "She chose peace. She asked me to let her go, and she made me swear that I would never come looking, never interfere." Emma clenched her fists. "You had money, resources. You could have found us." "I did," he said. "Every few years, I checked. Quietly. Just enough to know you were alive. Safe. That she kept her promise, too. Not to contact me." Emma shook her head. And you were okay with that? No, he said, but I honored it, because I broke so many other promises in my life, and that was the one I owed her. She stepped closer, anger rising in her chest. So you watched from a distance while we lived in tiny apartments, while she worked 2 jobs, while she got sick and died without help. And you sat in your penthouse and did nothing. He didn't flinch. I sent money. Emma stared at him. She never spent it, he added. It came back every time. She refused. There was silence. Emma lowered herself into the nearest chair, legs trembling. The weight of everything pressed down on her. The years of not knowing, the ache of absence she never knew had a name. I didn't need your money, she said. I needed a father. Alexander's face tightened. I know. For a while, they didn't speak. Then Emma asked, Do I have siblings? He hesitated, then nodded. A son. Older than you by a few years. Different mother. He doesn't know about you. Of course not, she said bitterly. Alexander sat across from her, folding his hands on the table. I didn't bring you here to justify myself. I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted you to have the truth. Finally. Emma stared at the table. So what now? That's up to you, he said. She looked up. I can walk away, he said. If that's what you want. I've done it before. But if you want to talk, to try to understand more, I'm here. I won't force you. I won't push. And what about your world? She asked. The one she didn't want me in. Are you still part of that? His silence was answer enough. Emma rose. I don't know what I want yet. But I'm not done asking questions. He nodded. I'll answer everyone. She turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she stopped and looked back. Why did you keep the photo? Alexander looked at her, his expression unreadable. Because it's the only thing I had left of her. Emma left without another word. Emma hadn't gone home. Instead, she sat in the park across from the hotel where the conversation happened. The wind was sharp, the clouds low, and people moved past her without a glance, busy, fast, full of their own lives. She had spent years wondering why she always felt like something was missing. Now she knew, and she wasn't sure if the answer gave her peace or just another kind of wound. Her phone buzzed. A message. I meant it. I'll answer everything. If you're ready. AP. She stared at the screen, fingers unmoving. Then, slowly, she typed. I want to meet him. My brother. 3 days later, she was sitting in a quiet cafe in an upscale district she'd never visited before. The kind of place where the music was soft and the silverware didn't make a sound. The door opened. A man stepped in. Tall, sharp-featured, same jawline, same eyes, but colder. He spotted her immediately. Walked over. Emma? She stood. Yes, I'm Daniel. They shook hands like strangers, because that's what they were. I wasn't sure you'd agree, she said, sitting down again. Daniel gave a short shrug. When my father says, we need to talk, you go. That's just how things work. You didn't know about me. No, he said. Not a word. There was a pause. You're angry, she said. I'm curious, he corrected, but also cautious. You have to understand. The world I grew up in doesn't leave much room for surprises, especially not people. She flinched slightly, and he noticed. I didn't mean it that way, he said. I just mean everything in my life is calculated, planned. A new sibling changes things. Only if you let it, she said. He nodded. Tell me about her, he said after a moment. Your mother. Emma smiled faintly, She laughed a lot when she thought no one was listening. She used to sing when she cleaned the apartment. She made coffee too strong and toast too burnt. But she loved me. Fiercely. Daniel was quiet. She sounds like someone I would have liked. She would have hated your father, Emma said. At first, Daniel let out a dry laugh. That makes two of us. Later that night, Emma met Alexander again, this time in his private office. Not a conference room, not public. She noticed the walls, lined with books, a few framed photos. One, now, was of her mother. She stared at it. She told me you used to draw, Alexander said. Emma turned. When I was a kid. She said you were good. Emma sat on the leather chair, arms crossed. She used to tell me I could be anything, even when she couldn't afford paper for me to draw on. He looked at her for a moment. Do you hate me? She didn't answer right away. I don't know yet, she finally said. He nodded. Fair. There was a pause. She wanted you to be strong, he said. Independent. She didn't want my world to taint yours. And looking at you now, I think she succeeded. You think I should thank you? She asked. No, he said. Just that maybe not all the damage was permanent. She looked away. I never celebrated your birthday, he said softly. Not once. But I thought about it. Every year. Emma's voice was dry. And that makes it okay? No, he said again. It doesn't. The next day, Daniel called. You're not what I expected, he said over the phone. Good or bad? Both, he said. You're like a mirror. One I didn't know I needed to look into. Emma sat on the floor of her apartment, back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. I don't know what comes next, she said. Then don't decide yet, he replied. Let it come to you. A week passed. Emma found herself looking through her mother's letters again. This time, searching not for answers, but for comfort. One stood out, folded tightly, hidden under a piece of fabric. It was unfinished. If she ever finds you, tell her I never stopped loving her. Not for a second. And that I wanted her to know who you were. But I couldn't choose for her. She has to find you on her own. When she's strong enough. When she's ready to forgive. Emma read the words again and again until they blurred. That evening, she sat across from Alexander at a small restaurant. No assistants, no security, no press. Just two people at a table, surrounded by silence. She placed the letter in front of him. His hand shook when he picked it up. He read it twice. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. I never deserved her, he said. Emma didn't argue. She just said, but maybe I deserved you. Emma didn't think it would end like this. Not with tears, not with screams, not with a spectacle of pain. It was quieter, deeper. It was as if a void had opened up inside her, and something else, not pain, but something else, slowly began to rise from there. Peace and fear. Because now the choice was hers. No one was hiding the truth anymore. No secrets, only consequences. She stood in front of Alexander's house, an old mansion on the edge of town, surrounded by tall pine trees. A house where she could have grown up. Things could have been different there. But it wasn't. He was waiting for her at the gate. No guards. In an ordinary jacket. A man like any other. Only with a past that broke more than just him. You came, he said. I don't know why, she replied. They walked down the path in silence. She stood in front of the house, unsure if she was walking into something new or just closing a chapter. The sky was a soft gray. The kind that didn't threaten a storm but held no promise of sunlight either. Alexander was already outside, waiting. No security, no assistance, just him. Hands in his coat pockets. Still, almost solemn. "You came," he said. "I'm not sure why," she replied honestly. He didn't smile. He just nodded, and they walked together down the stone path toward the house. Silence lingered between them, but this time it wasn't heavy. It wasn't hostile. Inside, the house was quiet. Modern, elegant, but not cold. A few signs of life here and there. A jacket tossed over a chair. A book open on the armrest. Not quite a family home, but not a fortress either. He led her to a sunroom. Glass walls, soft light, and 2 chairs facing the trees. They sat. "I don't expect anything," he said after a while. "Not a relationship, not forgiveness." "I know," she said, "but I wanted you to see where I live, what I've built, not to impress you, just to share it." Emma looked around. "You could have done that 20 years ago." "I wasn't brave enough," he admitted. The words hung in the air, simple and raw. He didn't follow them with excuses. "I spent a long time thinking I was angry," Emma said quietly. "At you, at her, at life. But I think I was just scared." "Of what?" "Of becoming someone without roots." He nodded slowly. "That fear never really goes away, even when you think you've made peace with it." She studied him. The sharp lines of his face, the small tiredness around his eyes. Not the man from the magazine covers, not the legend. Just a man who had made a choice, and lived with it every day. Later in the hallway, she paused before a closed door. "What's in there?" she asked. He didn't lie. "Her room. I kept it. I shouldn't have, maybe. But I couldn't get rid of it. Can I see it?" He unlocked the door. Inside was a room untouched by time. A scarf draped over a chair. A framed photo of her mother smiling in the garden. A notebook on the desk. Emma stepped inside slowly. She ran her hand over the dresser, looked at the brush with strands of long-forgotten hair. Everything smelled faintly of lavender. She sat on the bed. It creaked softly. Alexander remained at the doorway. "She wrote you a letter," he said. Emma looked up. "She gave it to me. Told me not to give it to you unless you came to find me yourself." He handed her the envelope. No name on the front. Just a small flower doodled in the corner. Her mother's little signature. Emma opened it. "My brave girl. If you are reading this, it means you found him. I don't know what you've learned. I don't know what you feel. But I know this. I never wanted you to carry the weight of our past. I wanted you to choose your life, not inherit mine. He is not a villain. And he is not innocent. He is simply human. As are you. So be kind to yourself first. Then to him, if you can. You don't owe anyone forgiveness. But I hope you find peace, because I never could without you. Love always, Mom." Emma folded the letter slowly. Her hands trembled, but her face was still. She stood, walked past Alexander. He didn't stop her, didn't reach out. At the front door, she turned. "I don't forgive you yet," she said. "I know. But I'm not walking away either." His eyes flickered, not with surprise, with something closer to relief. She stepped outside. The air was crisp, the wind gentle. She didn't know what came next. If there would be birthdays together. If she would ever call him Dad. If the scar between them would ever truly heal. But she knew this. The door was open. And that was more than she'd ever had before.